What's up, guys? Major changes have been announced to Battlegrounds, and I'm back with a video breaking down the entire patch. Now, if you guys haven't seen me for a while, it is because I've been kind of focusing more on melee content. I've been doing a lot of commentary and kind of videos and stuff on my other channel, which is youtube.com/radarssbm or slash micromelee. But with all of that out of the way, I want to look at the new patch because they're changing so much. They're removing so many cards. They're adding new heroes. They're changing the way damage is calculated. There's just so much to unpack. So let's get started. All right, time to break down everything. The first thing I want to talk about before we actually look at the minions and stuff is the specific keyword avenge. I'll find an example of a minion that has it right here. Bird Buddy, avenge, give your beasts +1/+1. You can see in brackets it says 1 there. That means that if one minion dies, you give your beast +1/+1, and it has been confirmed by this developer that it can be triggered multiple times. It is not like Spell Burst. So Bird Buddy would buff your board, and then if another beast dies, it would buff your board of beasts, of course, not just one thing. So that kind of gives you an idea, but let's just talk about some of the kind of major changes. The first one are the damage changes. The biggest one is that we added a cap of 15 damage until the first player dies. So sometimes, particularly when Shifter Xeris was back into play, that's where I think this was the most kind of egregiously annoying. You would take, someone would get like an early 6-drop or something, and they would take just a ridiculous amount of damage, and you take like 30 damage on turn 5 or something, and you just basically got unlucky. Like you played a person who had a huge spike in power and you die because of it. So now they're capping that damage to 15 until someone dies or someone disconnects from the game. So that's kind of interesting. I think that's really going to change how the game plays out. Sometimes there were strategies where you'd like, say for example, you play a hero that was stronger, like lately it's been Shutterwalk or something. You might want to like get really aggressive early on, try to deal as much damage as you can so that they kind of don't have the chance to really blow up and scale. And you'd compromise your own development just to kind of knock them out of the game. Now that won't be as much of a strategy, although 15 damage is obviously still a lot. But I think that's going to make a big difference. And then they also mentioned that we've added increased turn timers. For everyone to get familiar with the new content, the length of turns 3 to 9 have been increased by 5 seconds. I don't really love this, but I'm also coming at it from the perspective of a more experienced player. I don't really feel like I need 5 seconds extra, and all that's going to do is make each kind of the downtime between turns a lot longer. But whatever. And then they're going to be resetting the ranks, which makes sense as well. So yeah, they talk about the kind of general updates. Prizes are going away. Rating reset. Perks are going to make it so that new heroes are offered more likely if you have the perks. That's kind of another benefit. Like, sometimes content creators would play, they wouldn't get the new heroes. They'd be a little bit frustrated. I'm seeing my green screen stuff is not the greatest right now. Anyway, first new hero is Master Nguyen, which is has a passive ability at the start of every turn. Choose from 2 new hero powers. So basically, it looks like his ability is just changing his hero power every single turn. That doesn't sound that great to me. The beauty of a hero power is that it gives you kind of a consistent game plan. Now, of course, if you got something like Reno, you could use it that turn and just get a golden minion and then like swap it out. And there are some like single-use hero powers that would be very nice. But a lot of times, like let's say like Jandis or something, like the whole point of the hero power is to kind of take advantage of that repeatedly. Imagine getting like Brand's hero power and you can't play 5 battle cries in a single turn. I can just see a lot of situations where you can't take advantage of this, so I'm not going to rate it particularly highly. And then we have Cariel Rome, which is kind of based off of the standard card that's sort of similar, where you start off, it's 1 gold, and you give your random friendly minion +1/+1. Then by the time you get to tier 3, you give 3 random friendly minions +1/+1, and then finally 5 random minions at tier 5. I think this sounds okay on its own. +1/+1, not very good. Think about kind of where Edwin was at one point, where +1/+1. I think they buffed him. I actually haven't been playing that much lately, but if I recall correctly, Edwin has been buffed. I think I'll just quickly do what is it? HS replay Battlegrounds heroes. Yeah. So this kind of reminds me early on of a Edwin, but then eventually becomes +2/+1 this turn. So but now then it becomes quite a bit better. And the nice thing is that like it's not based on how many minions you buy, it's based on tiering up. So you could tier up on turn 2 and then sell the tier up on tier 3 to kind of get to it quickly. I don't think that would really be that good because you want to have a bunch of minions to be buffing. But then of course there's a lot of divine shields and stuff on tier 3. So I actually think this might be okay. It might be fairly strong. I don't think it's going to be game breaking. On to the new minions, though. First up, we have this new beast, Leapfrogger, which is a 2-star 3/3, so not a terrible stat line. And it has Death Rattle, give a friendly beast +2/+2, and this Death Rattle. So, if you had this next little guy over here, Sewer Rat, this dies, gives Sewer Rat +2/+2, and then Sewer Rat gets the Death Rattle. So it really benefits from having multiple beasts to kind of latch this onto. I think the ability to get the Death Rattle again is probably not that valuable. I think just the Death Rattle on its own is kind of valuable, but then you need it to die early, and 3 health, it might not. I would say this is kind of mid-tier. I think if you have a couple other beasts that you can kind of reliably get the benefit from, that would be good. Oh, also, I do want to. I'll point out all the minions that are kind of being rotated out first, just because that's probably easier to kind of contextualize what's going on. So they're upgrading Arm of the Empire to be to just be a 4/4 instead of a 4/5. That's fine. But they're getting rid of a lot of stuff. Fiendish Servant, Vulgar Homunculus, Micro Machine, which is great. Murloc Tidecaller, which is the 1/2, if I recall correctly. Yeah. And let me just double check that. Murloc Tidecaller. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so Dragon Spawn Lieutenant, that's a 2/3. So a lot of the kind of basic minions going away. Pack Leader going away. Kindly Grandmother and a really weak minion. Steward of Time. Like a lot of the weak ones. Wax Rider, Togwaggle, South Sea Captain, Tormented Ritualist, which is the 2/3, if I recall correctly. Nothing like that's leaving is that game breaking, like they're just kind of general buffs. Like Infested Wolf goes away, but we get some new beasts. Warden of Old, kind of a decent card. Toxfin is probably the one that looks to me to be the biggest. Bolvar, not a huge deal. Security Rover, not a huge deal. Even at the very top, like Lieutenant Gar, not a huge deal. Tide Razor, which is the boat, not a huge deal. Faceless Tavern Goer and Mal'Ganis and Mithrax going away all seem like pretty big ones. Faceless Tavern Goer gives you so much flexibility to find triples. And then beyond that, Mal'Ganis is just like a huge part of the demon package. It allows you to build up Wrathweaver, although there is a new minion coming out that kind of lets you do that in a different way. Nat Piggle doesn't really matter. Seabreaker Goliath is the Wind Fury one, right? Yeah. So him going away, not the biggest deal either. Direhorn, not the biggest deal. So like most of the ones they're taking out are kind of like not build defining. They're just important. So, or like they kind of like fill in the gaps for beasts or any other tribe, and that's kind of what they're replacing. I think this is kind of like okay. I think this 2-star 3/2 that summons a 2/3 is very good. I think a 3/2, what is that? A 5/5 on tier 2. That's excellent. That's just a lot of stats. I think that's like a very, very solid minion. Sometimes stats are all you need, right? Like a 3/4 is already pretty solid. This is basically a 5/5. 3 attack is definitely pretty good. 2/3 also kind of solid. I think it has a lot of the stat lines that you'd need for it to be decent. And on tier 2, definitely a minion I would pick up. Bird Buddy, here's our first Avenge one. Give your beast +1/+1. So when I first saw this, I was kind of looking at it and I was like, so this is just a crappier spawn this off. It's a 2/4. Yeah, it doesn't have to die, but something else has to die to give only beasts +1/+1. But then, again, like I said, when I confirmed that it can happen multiple times, then it became a bit more interesting. You got to imagine, best case scenario, you have like 6 other minions and you activate Avenge a couple times. So it's like a 2/4 that gives +2/+2 to everything, but +1/+1 to 6 or 5 minions, and then +2/+2 to 4 minions. Like that's the best case scenario. It seems like middle of the road, like kind of a lot of high roll potential, and if you can get the synergies going, it's good. But like, I'm not blown away by it. I think this guy's pretty good. 6/2 that give a friendly beast reborn. So if you gave that to Goldrin, we've all played Lich King with Goldrin. My green screen is just totally messing up, but let's try to deal with that the best we can. In the meantime, yeah, like that seems really, really, really strong to me. And I think, yeah, I think like it's gonna be it just the ability to give certain minions reborn, like Mama Bear, minions that you don't want to die, I think is well worth the 3 gold. And it would be a permanent effect, right? Like every other battle cry is permanent, so this will be too. Pale Scale Crocalist, 5-star. 4/5, Avenge 2, and Death Rattle give another friendly beast +6/+6. So on its own, a 4/5 kind of understated, but it gives +6/+6. Could be really good. Of course, if it dies, depending on how many beasts you have, if this dies or before you want it to, you don't get that buff. And of course, if you taunt it, then other minions aren't going to get the buff either. Like you need two things to die to get the +6/+6. So on its own, it's like a mama bear that activates once, which doesn't sound great. And then how does the avenge work where you have to keep this alive, kind of like the mama bear? Like mama bear just seems better to me in every single way. I'm not super impressed with this, but you can activate the death rattle with the macaw, and 6/6, is pretty solid. It just doesn't seem as good as mama bear, and mama bear is still in the game, if I recall correctly. So then we move on to demons. Impulsive Trickster. Give this minion's maximum health to a friendly minion. So the reason why they specify maximum health is, say for example, this had been buffed, or we're at the gold one, and it has 4 health, but it gets attacked by someone and it only has 2 health. It will still gain +4 health. It's basically the reverse of Fiendish Servant, and I think health is actually generally more valuable. So, if you buffed this, it'd be a decent minion. Get the 2/4 to buff it, and it becomes a 4/4. Then you get +4 health. It doesn't seem bad. A 2/2 on its own is not bad. It's not great, but, not terrible. I'm much more impressed by Icky Imp, though. It summons 2 1/1 imps, so it's a 1/1 that summons 2 1/1s. It's basically a 3/3. That sounds amazing to me. Sounds really good with the Soul Juggler. Seems just generally solid as a what's it called? 1-drop, like 3/3 in stats is very, very solid. And it works well with Avenge, and it works well with some other stuff. What's it called? That I'll get to in a sec. So, Impatient Doomsayer, Avenge 3, add a random demon to your hand. So, Icky Imp is a good example. Like, you get a couple Icky Imps, this thing stays alive because it has 6 health, and you get some free cards. Now, Avenge 3 sounds like a lot, and, you'd have to have some stuff taunted or whatever to really try to ensure it. It's pretty much an effect you only ever get once. Like, you're not going to have everything else but this die basically ever, unless this was the only thing that wasn't taunted, and even still cleave and all that other stuff. But I think a couple Icky Imps and Impatient Doomsayer can be some decent economy, and you can even see the imps kind of are paired visually, so you get an idea that they're supposed to be played together. Catherine Natir, if that's how you pronounce it. Your other demons have +3 attack, your hero is immune. So this is kind of the new Mal'Ganis thing for the little pink men. You get +3 attack on all your demons rather than +2/+2. But earlier on, like 1 tier earlier, you can start to scale the 1/3. I can't think of what he's called. The pink guy, and that'll be really, really valuable. I think +3 attack is nowhere near as useful, but getting this earlier could be decent. Insatiable Urzul is a taunt after you play a demon, consume a minion in Bob's Tavern to gain its stats. So this has some scaling. The more you play demons, just kind of like, I can't believe I can't think of what the name of the minion is. I'm sure I'll find it right here. But you guys know what I'm talking about, the 1/3 Wrathweaver. So like this would help with Wrathweaver, where you have a couple Wrathweavers, you have this thing, you play demons, it takes the stats of whatever's in the shop. Of course, you need minions in the shop, and then when it's golden, it gets double. But that sounds pretty decent. A lot of minions are like 3, 4, 4, 4. So every time you play a demon, you get like that much. That's comparable to this guy getting, when he's golden, getting +4/+4. So very, very solid. And then Famished Fellbat, at the end of your turn, each friendly demon consumes a minion in Bob's Tavern to gain its stats. So as long as you have a full shop, and you're at like a fairly high tier, you can get like your entire board gets a buff each turn. This seems very, very solid, and the golden one is even better. So 9/5 in stats, not the greatest stat line, but you'd have pretty much immediate scaling if you have a bunch of demons. And right now, scaling is what demons kind of miss. Like we only have really Wrathweavers, Gold Grubbers if you have a bunch of golden minions, even though that isn't a demon, and the one that the 4-drop that gets a bunch of what I'm talking about, that gets +1/+1 every time a demon is summoned. I hate the way they lay this out. You know what I'm talking about. Onto mechs. Puttbot 2/1 Divine Shield. A 1-drop that has a Divine Shield seems really good to me as a mech. This just seems really solid. Like it's something you pretty much immediately are down to be buffing. Like Borderline Broken, also as a 1-drop, like that can trade really, really well. It's kind of like, think about the 2/1 Murloc that summons a 1/1. This is just like strictly better, except for an economy. But like so often early on, you want to get Divine Shield minions, and usually they're in like tier 3, and now you have one in tier 1. So that's kind of strange to me. Avenge 2 deals 6 damage to the highest health enemy minion. Seems okay. Mechanotank, terrible stats. I don't know. I'm not impressed by it, but maybe I'm undervaluing how easy it is to have Avenge 2 activate. I don't think it's that good. Tier 4 mech, after a friendly minion loses Divine Shield, give it +2/+1 permanently. Oh my god. So yeah, same thing, like get a Divine Shield minion, and then this will buff Divine Shield minions. Seems really, really good. This is definitely a build around unit. Holy Meckerl, after another friendly minion loses Divine Shield, gain Divine Shield. That seems really good. So Holy Mackerel used to be a Divine Shield minion that would get, it was a Murloc that would get same effect, except that you could also give it Poisonous. Obviously, you can't give this Poisonous, but this still seems really solid, and it's only tier 5. That sounds very, very, very good. So I would definitely pick up that. I expect that'll be kind of a build around as well. And like this will just scale with these two have so much synergy. Mech's looking really strong. Omega Buster, summon 6/1/1 microbots. For each that doesn't fit, give your mechs +1/+1. So you could give +6/+6 very easily. If this died, you could taunt it, and every turn you get +6/+6. Sounds pretty good. I don't know, like that just sounds really good. +6/+6 each turn. Like that's like a Goldrin. Now you can't activate it multiple times, but I don't know. Seems interesting, especially if you could macaw it. Like it's basically Goldrin, isn't it? So if that was the only death rattle. Now, mechs have a lot of death rattles, but not the ones that we're looking at. Murlocs, Salt Scale Honcho. Tier 2 Murloc. If you play Murloc, give 2 other friendly Murlocs +1 health. I mean, that seems pretty good as well. Like, you know, it's not a battle cry effect, so it gives you an ability to kind of scale without relying on something like Bran. Yeah, like, seems okay. I think it's decent. Like it's definitely going to be solid enough, just because it gives you early scaling and you kind of like you get that ball rolling pretty quickly. Swolefin, battle cry gain +2/+1 for each other friendly Murloc, so it's kind of a battle cry just for itself. Let me imagine you get it on say the turn where you have 7 gold, just turn 5. Is that actually how that works? I think it is. -2 gold. Turn 5, you get a 4/2. You have like what 3 Murlocs. That's +6/+3. So you get a 10/5. Seems pretty solid. You can only activate it once, so it's not like it has scaling like the Quillbore, but it seems good. SI7, that's funny. Avenge 3, give a friendly Murloc poisonous permanently. Oh, so they get rid of Toxfin, but you have this set up so that you can kind of slowly give your Murlocs poison. I think that'll just be a utility card. You'll very likely see it in Murloc builds. And Avenge 3, while difficult to achieve, I think with Taunt wouldn't be too bad. Seafluid Slinger, Battlecry, make a Murloc golden. I mean, this would be a decent one to make golden. Doesn't seem that valuable. I imagine, you know, you don't get to pick it up and play it again. So like it just doesn't seem that good for a fair amount of the Murlocs that I can think of. So I'm not super impressed by that one. Even giving like, yeah, like I don't know, it just doesn't seem that good because a lot of Murlocs are battle cries, right? Even giving it to like a war leader, it's a 6-drop. That's not that impactful. So that seems like a miss. Like you don't really want to hit that. On to dragons. After you upgrade your tavern tier, double this minion's attack. Okay, so you buy it. It's a 1/3 on turn 1, and so comparable to like a bunch of other minions that we have. Then you tier up in level 2, like on 4 gold, and now it's a 2/3. And then if you were, then you know, then you'd sell it. If you were to sell it and buy 2 minions, well, then you don't get this ability. Eventually becomes a 4/3. It doesn't seem that good to me. It's basically a 2/3, but with some scaling. I can imagine a world where that gets a bit better, but it's tough. Whelp Smuggler. After a friendly dragon gains attack, give it +2 health. So this plus this would be decent synergy. Also the 2/4 that doubles its health. So this seems like a good card. It's also a 2/4 in its own right, which is pretty decent. I think this synergy is pretty big. Terragosa. This permanently keeps enchantments from combat. Okay. So it would keep a Spawn of N'Zoth. It would keep... What other ones would be big? A Selfless Hero Divine Shield. As a 3-drop, that seems pretty good. I wonder if you could just try to run like Selfless and some other things, like some kind of Death Rattle-y type thing. Seems pretty good. It's a 4/4, 3-drop 4/4, not bad on its own. That seems doubles and keeps. Wow, that seems pretty good. I think that's the minion you want. Wow, I'm really excited to play all these. Prize promo Drake. Start of combat, give adjacent minions +1/+1 for each friendly dragon. So for a drop, that's a 5/5, not too bad of a stat line. And then if you had like 6 other dragons, you would get what? +6/+6 to 2 minions at the start of combat. So it's not a permanent buff, it's like a positional buff. But if you could put it on like a Hydra or something, if you had a mostly dragons comp, and it would give it a bit more. It's okay. I think if it was a permanent buff, it would be a lot better. I think the fact that it's the start of combat means it's only for the combat and then it goes away. But if it's permanent, that's pretty solid. Whenever another friendly dragon attacks, deal 3 damage to its target. That sounds good. 3/5 attack. It's like a soul juggler, but it's not reliant on them dying, I think, which is nice. Although on the flip side, that means it's only going to activate 6 times before it dies. So maybe it's not that great, even if it's a 6 damage thing. I'm trying to imagine it. Like, it's good for popping shields and stuff. Like, especially since I imagine it's activated before. I'm not sure though, because if you attack and it's activated beforehand, it pops a shield and then they do it. But do you know what I mean? Like, it says whenever another friendly dragon attacks. Like, you're about to attack and then it does it. But I could be wrong. On to pirates. After you upgrade your tavern tier, add a random pirate to Bob's Tavern. 3/4 stat line, not terrible. And then you get a random pirate, meaning it could be a lot better. You know, I think there's high roll potential for sure. The fact that it's a random pirate, I assume they mean from any tier. If it isn't, then that's not that great. Briny Bootlegger. At the end of your turn, if you have another pirate, add a gold coin to your hand. That seems really good. Economy stuff can always be useful. This is basically like, what's the word? It's basically like the Warden of old, but better stats and only reliant on pirates. But that means it doesn't have to die. So it's just basically you get it and you get 1 extra gold every turn. Sounds amazing. Peggy Brittlebone. After a card is added to your hand, give another random pirate +1/+1. Card is added to your hand. I'm trying to imagine how often that happens. Like a gold coin to your hand is one of them. I'd have to kind of like see all the different cards that add stuff to your hand. I mean, I guess all the Quillbores give you blood gems. It's interesting. Definitely interesting. I think the scaling sounds interesting for sure. Hard to say where it will go. Avenge 5. Make another friendly pirate golden permanently. I mean, Eliza being golden is good, but you know, Avenge 5 sounds like it's really not that likely to happen. And then getting a golden minion, like, I guess these kind of guys are decent golden. This is not decent. So, I don't know. I'm kind of like, they got rid of Pagel and the Wind Fury Pirate. And the Wind Fury Pirate with Mega Wind Fury is pretty good. And, you know, you're not getting that. So, I think this doesn't seem that good at all. Nosy Looter. Okay, so yeah, this is the difference. This is where you'd want a golden. Every 2 turns, add a random golden minion to your hand. So I saw some people calling this OP. I don't think it's OP. You got to think about it like it's a 6-drop that's a 7/6. So not an amazing stat line. Not the kind of stat line that's going to like turn things around. So even if you like quickly level into it, you get it. You don't get any immediate tempo. And then you have to wait 2 turns. In a Battlegrounds, 2 turns is like, it's an effing lot, man. Like, you have to wait a long time just to even get a random golden minion. So not even a minion that you necessarily want, and then you get a discovery and a triple. Like, if this just said random triple or whatever, like, I mean, obviously there are some good things, but I just think it's really slow. Most of the time you play this, you get 1 minion from it. So you spent 3 gold to get a golden minion over 2 turns. I mean, why not just, I don't know. I'm not impressed by it. At the start of your turn, though, add a random golden minion to your hand. That sounds pretty decent because you're getting them now every turn, but then you had to spend 9 gold for it, unless you got it from this. So, good economy, but it comes too late. I think if this was a tier 5, I'd be way, way more interested in it. But you gotta understand, like, 6, like, think about where you're at in the game with 6. You're looking for a build around, or you're looking for something that just has amazing tempo, like a gas coiler or something. It's too slow. Elementals, tier 3 elemental. Battlecry, give a friendly elemental stats equal to your tavern tier. So you get this at 3, you get +3/+3. I mean, +6/+6 is quite decent. I think this is just a very solid card. It's being switched, like, this is what's replacing the elemental gives everything +1/+1. And I think that's better. Like, this is targeted. I think there's a lot of situations where the +1/+1 really only does a lot when you have, what's it called? Multiple elementals. Like, if you have like 6 elementals, +6/+6 is great. But if you only have 2 elementals, getting a 3/3 that gives +2/+2 is like, whatever. This already, as soon as you get it, pretty much is going to give +3/+3, and it only gives more. That's equivalent to a lot of other buffs that are even not tier 4 or higher. So I think this is a good card. It's not amazing, but it's definitely one of those cards you're going to be using throughout the game. Dazzling Lightspawn, it's a 4/5, decent stat line, although it's a tier 4 unit. Avenge 2, Elementals in Bob Tavern have +1/+1 for the rest of the game. That sounds pretty damn good, honestly. Avenge 2, you just taunt 2 minions, which is just what Argus does. Doesn't have to be elementals necessarily, and you already got something kind of going. I don't know. That seems good. Why is this suddenly? Oh, it's a little bit of light, of course. Just sorry, guys. I just can't really deal with the green screen stuff right now super well, like, without fucking everything else up. So clearly I need to change the lighting. Anyway, recycling Wraith. After you play an elemental, your next refresh costs 0. So it's like economy. It's not economy that helps you level, though. It's just economy that kind of helps you in the moment. So it's like good with like a Nomi or something. I mean, it helps with Nomi so much, though. Like, if you play a Celemental, you get free roll, you roll again. Like, it makes Nomi way more consistent. That might just make it like good enough. It's a 5/4. There's a lot of like scaling elementals. I think this is like middle of the pack, pretty good. Really gonna help Nomi with consistency, which might be good enough. Master of Realities, not an elemental itself, by the way. All of these so far have been elementals. Taunt after friendly elemental gain stats, gain +1/+1. Are elementals gaining stats that much? Like, I'm trying to think of it. I feel like they're not. +1/+1 for a 6/6 doesn't seem that good. I mean, I guess if you did a mass AoE buff, it would be really good. And there are situations where like you could play this. Like, it just seems like a worse version of Gar, but maybe it's better than I'm realizing because it's not dependent on how many elementals you have to some degree. I don't know. I'm not loving it. Quillbores, Gem Splitter, tier 3 unit. After a friendly minion loses Divine Shield, gain a Blood Gem. I mean, there's a fair amount of Divine Shields. This would be enough to make the 4/3 Divine Shield that gets Divine Shield if you give it to Quillbore, kind of make it self-sufficient. So I think it's decent. I think it's like, it's just solid enough. Budding Green Thumb, Avenge 3, give adjacent minions +2/+1 permanently. 1/4 is not that strong, and Avenge 3 sounds pretty hard, so I'm not going to say that's that good. Witchwing Nest Matron, Avenge 3, add a random Battlecry minion to your hand. I mean, it's economy. Avenge 3, again, I think is going to be kind of hard to keep that thing alive. I honestly wonder if I should just like ditch the green screen entirely and just do... Anyway, I don't think that's that amazing, but decent. And then like we said, the Arm of the Empire change. Just reviewing these one more time, I think most of these changes are not impactful. It just gets rid of bad units, which is going to help, but it's not game breaking at all. I think in terms of the tier 2 stuff, also not game breaking, going to make things more consistent. These ones, again, like, not that game breaking. None of these are that strong. They're often minions you don't really want, or like are just okay. Vermin Sensei gonna make Hydras a little bit weaker, but there's other ways to buff them now. Hex Ruin Marauder, which one's that? Hex Ruin Marauder. Oh, it's the 6 or fewer. Yeah, that's not that great. Junkbot, like, really, Toxfin is the only one that sticks out to me, as like big, and then these 3 are huge. Mithrax is really big. Faceless Tavern Goer is absolutely massive. It makes triples so much more consistent. So this is the big nerf you're going to feel. Everything else, not really. Losing Tide Razor, who cares? So yeah, really, really, really big changes. Like, absolutely huge changes. I think, I don't know. I think we're going to be seeing such a different game. And, part of the reason I haven't been playing that much is because it's just felt kind of the same for a while. And this is going to change so much. Like, look at how much this is, what, like 5 or 6 minions from each tier, sometimes way more than that. Like they said at the top, didn't they? How many minions they're removing? We're replacing 37 minions. Like, think about how much of a shakeup that is. So I'm super excited. I hope you guys are super excited as well. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button. Check me out on Twitter and Twitch at twitter.com/radarssbm and twitch.tv/radarssbm. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.